One of the great things about Marvel Snap is the flexibility that you have in deck building. So one of my favorite things to do in game is trying to make theme decks. Decks based around a certain theme like the Avengers or the X-Men or something like that. So they don't always work, but sometimes they do. And that's where the idea for this Mystic Masters deck came in. I wanted to create a deck that was themed around magic-based characters and or spellcasters. So the first version of this deck wasn't all that thought out. Surprise, surprise. I had cards like Kitty Pryde, White Queen, Starhawk, and they didn't really fit the theme of the deck. And they weren't, I mean, they were useful, but they weren't that great, at least in this deck. So I think I even mentioned in my first video that a card like Doctor Strange wouldn't really do well in a deck like this, but I couldn't have been more wrong. So this is what I had for the first deck. So we had Deafening Chord, Majestic Wing Beat, which Majestic Wing Beat really only works to full effect on Agamotto, nobody else. Deafening Chord is limited to cards that are 3 and less. And I wanted to put I put these cards in to have some skills to help Nicholas Scratch get buffed up. But a lot of times I wind up with a hand of all skills and a few characters on board. So that was something you have to watch out for. So I decided to go back and revisit this list and see, how I can kind of improve it, kind of fine tune it a little bit. And the result is a little bit more cohesive, a little bit more synergistic. So the cards that I decided to go with, or I kept Nicholas Scratch, of course, kind of the foundation of the deck. He'll get +1 power for each skill that you play. He'll never get all that big, but he can do a power swing sometimes. I kept Nico. Nico has a lot of abilities. These do not count as spells towards buffing Nicholas Scratch, but they are still useful, just depending on when you play it. And then I kept Clea, of course. And anytime she gets a buff to power, you will get a 1 cost Flames of Faltine, which will afflict your enemy with -3 power. And then I kept Sandstorm, which is a decent card, especially with another card I put in for a little bit more synergy. And then Merlin, of course, which is a good card. He has 3 spells that are quite useful. I don't know if I can get him over here. So he has a Polymorph, which will transform the lowest power character into a character that costs 1 more. And then once in future, which will reshuffle the card into your deck, you'll get 2 energy the next turn. And then the Omniversal Presence, which will replace a location with a new one, and it gives Merlin +1 power. So those all go towards buffing up Nicholas Scratch. Then Baron Mordo I put in here mainly for the theme of the deck. You never know, and that's a problem with this card. You'll never know if it's successful or not, because you don't see the card that he'll turn the top card of your opponent's deck into a 6 cost. So you never know if it's successful. And like Iceman, I wish you could see, what effect that he had, just to kind of make it a little bit worth more playing. And then Doctor Strange, of course, who you'll see a game where Doctor Strange wins the game. Him and Nico win the game for me. He'll move the highest power card to that location, so that should give you a hint as to what happens. Shang-Chi, you start the game with the 10 rings, and when you play them on a card, it will give them +1 power. Once you play Shang-Chi, it unlocks the potential of the rings, and every turn they'll get +1 power. All the cards that are in the lane with the 10 rings. So which is good to have for Clea. Put it on Clea, and then every turn you're going to be getting one of her spells to use. Wong, I don't know how I missed him the first time, since he is or was the Sorcerer Supreme, which he'll make your on reveals happen twice. So if you put the flames on there, somebody will get -6. And then Ramatut, which is just a fun card to play. He is sort of magic based from what I understand, but it's just a fun card to play regardless. And then Ozymandias, who what he does is your rocks will have +3 power. So anything you get from Sandstorm, so if you get a 1/6 rock from Sandstorm. He'll make them 1/9s. So which is pretty, they could steal some cubes at the end of the game. And then Agamotto, you shuffle 4 Ancient Arcana into your deck. The Temporal Manipulation, which gives him +3 power, and it'll put Agamotto in your hand if he's not already there. Winds of Watum, it will afflict an enemy card with -5 power and move it to the right. The Bolts of Balthak, which will give you +4 energy next turn. And then the Images of Icon, which will transform your other cards into copies of the highest power card there. So that's the deck. You will see some crazy gameplay in this one. A couple of games that were a little out there. I got a lot of retreats with this deck, so I don't know if it just looked imposing or they thought something bad was coming. But I probably had, I don't know how many games where my opponent just left. So don't have a lot of cubes with this game. The win rate is not bad, just don't have a lot of cubes with it. So I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. As always, thank you for watching, and happy snapping.